The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversation. Delegates from hundreds of worlds sat in their specialized seats, some floating in water-filled chambers, others perched on crystalline platforms that hummed with energy. The air recycling systems worked overtime to accommodate oxygen breathers, methane dwellers, and the few species that absorbed nutrients directly from radiation. Ambassador Elena Vasquez checked her notes one more time. Her hands shook slightly, not from fear but from excitement. Today marked the biggest moment in human history, the day Earth officially joined the galactic community. She wore her best diplomatic uniform, navy blue with small flags from every nation on Earth sewn onto the sleeves. The other ambassadors had found this touching, though they didn't quite understand why humans still divided themselves into separate countries. Next on the agenda, announced Council Speaker Vexhai, his 4 eyes scanning the assembly, the integration of species designation H7742 from the third planet of the Sol system. Elena stood and walked to the central platform. The spotlight followed her and hundreds of alien eyes turned her way. Some delegates looked interested, others seemed half asleep. This was routine for them. New species joined the council every few months. The Zephyrian delegate, Gul Nara, yawned through his gill slits. Water bubbled out of his breathing apparatus as he settled deeper into his aquatic chamber. Another primitive species from the outer rim, he thought. They always seemed so excited about everything. Councillor Thexra of the Vorthak Collective barely looked up from his datapad. The crystalline being's body flickered with bored purple light. His species had been part of the council for over 10,000 years. New member integrations were as interesting to him as watching grass grow, if grass existed on his silicon homeworld. The insectoid Crextai delegate clicked her mandibles in what passed for a sigh among her people. Her compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights as she examined her claws. At least the human looked clean, unlike the last species they'd admitted. Those fungal creatures from the outer spiral had left spores everywhere. Elena reached the speaking platform and activated the universal translator embedded in her collar. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. I am Elena Vasquez, representing the people of Earth. We come before you today with grateful hearts, ready to take our place among the stars. Several delegates nodded politely. Standard opening speech, they noted. Every new species said roughly the same thing. Earth is our home, Elena continued, warming to her subject. It's a beautiful blue world, the third planet from our sun. We have vast oceans, 7 continents, and nearly 8 billion people living in almost 200 different countries. We've learned to work together despite our differences. We've explored our world from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountains. We've even begun to reach beyond our atmosphere to the planets nearby. The Council's recording systems captured every word, filing them away in databases that stretched back millions of years. Species integration followed strict procedures. First came the formal introduction, then cultural exchange, followed by technological assessment, and finally full membership with trading rights. Councillor Mordeth of the Scaled Alliance leaned forward slightly. The reptilian being's forked tongue flicked out to taste the air. Something about the human's scent seemed familiar, but he couldn't place it. Probably just another mammalian species. The galaxy was full of them. We bring gifts, Elena said, gesturing to her assistant who carried a large case. Music from our greatest composers, books from our finest writers, and samples of our food and drink. We hope you'll find them interesting. She opened the case and pulled out a small device. This contains the complete works of Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven, some of our greatest musicians. We also have works by artists from every continent on Earth. The device projected sound waves that the universal translators converted into formats each species could appreciate. The melodic concordance delegate, a being made of living sound waves, perked up with interest. Music was rare in the galaxy. Most species communicated through basic tones or chemical signals. Complex harmonic structures like these were unusual. Elena continued pulling items from the case. These are books. We call them novels. Stories we tell each other for entertainment and learning. This one is about a ship that hits an iceberg and sinks. But the people on board show great courage. This one is about a man who survives alone on an island for years, and this one is about people who fight against impossible odds to save their world from invasion. The chronicler species delegate, Scribe Ventar, made notes on his biopad with tentacles that moved faster than most beings could see. Stories about survival and fighting against overwhelming odds? Interesting themes for a supposedly peaceful species. And finally, Elena said, producing a small container, we bring coffee. It's a beverage we enjoy that helps us stay alert. We thought you might like to try it. She poured the dark liquid into small cups and offered them to nearby delegates. The smell filled the chamber, rich, bitter, complex. Several delegates recoiled at the intensity of the aroma. Councillor Yithgara of the Peaceful Meadows Confederation tentatively sipped the offered cup. Her large eyes widened and she made a chittering sound of surprise. The beverage was a stimulant, and a powerful one. Why would a species voluntarily consume something so potent? We drink this every morning, Elena explained cheerfully. Some of us drink it many times throughout the day. It helps us work longer and think more clearly. The council chamber filled with quiet murmurs. A species that regularly consumed powerful stimulants was unusual. Most civilized beings avoided such substances, preferring mental clarity that came naturally. Speaker Vexhai raised one of his 4 arms for silence. Thank you, Ambassador Vasquez. We appreciate your gifts and your presentation. Now we must complete the formal registration process. He gestured toward the massive computer terminal that dominated one wall of the chamber. Archivist, please begin the integration protocol. The Archivist was ancient even by galactic standards. It had been built by the first species to achieve faster-than-light travel over 2 million years ago. Its consciousness existed in quantum processors that hummed with barely contained power. When it spoke, its voice resonated through the chamber like distant thunder. Beginning integration protocol for species H7742, the Archivist announced. Scanning provided coordinates for homeworld designation. Error. Scanning again. Error. Attempting to resolve. Elena looked confused. Is there a problem? Speaker. Vexahai frowned with both his primary and secondary faces. This is unusual. Archivist, please elaborate on the error. Coordinates provided do not match standard database entries, the Archivist replied, its voice carrying a slight electronic tremor, cross-referencing with historical archives. Error. 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 The chamber fell silent. In over 50,000 years of operation, the Archivist had never failed to process new member integration. Its databases contained information about every star system, every planet, every species that had ever been encountered. Perhaps there's been a mistake in the coordinates, suggested Councillor Thexra, his crystalline body flickering with worried orange light. Elena pulled out her datapad and double-checked the information. Sol system, 3rd planet. Coordinates are correct. We call it Earth, but I suppose you might have different names for it in your database. The Archivist's processors hummed louder, working at maximum capacity. Attempting deep archive scan. Warning, warning. Accessing restricted files requires authorization. Speaker Vexahai's 4 eyes widened. Restricted files? There were very few things in the galaxy important enough to require special authorization. Grant authorization level 7, he commanded. Authorization insufficient, the Archivist replied. This scan requires level 9 clearance. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Level 9 clearance was reserved for the most sensitive information in galactic history. Wars that had consumed entire sectors. Species so dangerous they had been quarantined. Weapons so terrible they had been banned from existence. Elena looked around the suddenly quiet chamber. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Is there something wrong with Earth? Councillor Mordeth's forked tongue flicked out again. Faster this time. That scent, that familiar scent. His species had genetic memories that went back millions of years. Deep in his reptilian brain, something ancient stirred. Grant level 9 authorization, Speaker Vexhai commanded, his voice tight with worry. The Archivist paused for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice had changed. Deeper, older, more careful. Level 9 authorization granted. Beginning deep archive scan. Warning. Information contained in deep archives may cause psychological distress. Recommend non-essential personnel evacuate chamber. Elena stepped forward. Wait, what's happening? What's wrong with Earth? But no one answered her. The delegates sat frozen, waiting for the archivist to complete its scan. Outside the Great Hall's windows, ships moved between stations and planets, unaware that something fundamental was about to change. The archivist's processors reached temperatures that required emergency cooling. Quantum pathways that had been sealed for millennia cracked open. Information flowed like water through a broken dam. Deep archive scan complete, the archivist announced. Results are unprecedented. Elena gripped her datapad tighter. What does that mean? Speaker Vexhai looked at her with something that might have been pity. It means, Ambassador Vasquez, that your species may be far more significant than any of us realized. In the depths of the Council's computer systems, warnings that had been dormant for 50,000 years began to activate. Alert signals started pulsing to stations across the galaxy. And in the restricted archives, files with names like Crucible Prime Protocol and Terran containment procedures flickered to life for the first time in millennia. Elena stood alone on the platform, surrounded by hundreds of alien beings who now looked at her with expressions she couldn't read. But somewhere deep in her human instincts, she sensed a change in the chamber's atmosphere. The friendliness was gone, replaced by something else, something that felt very much like fear. Senior Archivist Zorthak moved through the deep storage levels of the Council archives with purpose. His ancient legs, worn smooth by countless years, carried him past rows of quantum storage units that hummed with the history of the galaxy. At over 12,000 years old, he was one of the few beings alive who remembered when some of these files had been sealed. The elevator descended through levels that most Council members didn't even know existed. Level 50, Level 75, Level 100. Finally, it stopped at Level 127, the deepest storage facility in Council space. Here, in chambers protected by gravity shields and quantum locks, lay the most dangerous information in the galaxy. Zorthak's 4 hearts beat faster as he approached the central terminal. The system failure during the human integration had triggered protocols he'd hoped never to see activated. When the main archivist had crashed trying to process Earth's coordinates, backup systems had automatically flagged the incident for deep investigation. Computer, display the failed integration analysis, he commanded. Holographic displays materialized around him, showing the exact moment when the main system had encountered the error. Zorthak watched as the standard integration protocol had begun normally, scanning the provided coordinates for the human homeworld. But when the system had tried to cross-reference those coordinates with historical databases, everything had gone wrong. Show me what caused the crash, Zorthak said. The display zoomed in on a specific coordinate set. The numbers looked ordinary, just another G-type star with a small planetary system. But when the computer had tried to match those coordinates, with its records it had found something unexpected. Match found in Forbidden Registry, the computer announced. Warning: access to Forbidden Registry requires specific authorization protocols. Zorthak's blood ran cold. The Forbidden Registry contained information about only the most dangerous things in galactic history, weapons that could destroy stars, diseases that could wipe out entire species, and worlds so terrible that the galaxy's greatest civilizations had agreed to forget they existed. Authorization, Zorthak Alpha Prime, he said, his voice steady despite his fear. I am Senior Archivist, with emergency investigation clearance. Authorization accepted. Displaying Forbidden Registry entry for coordinates Sol 3. The holographic display changed, showing text in the ancient script that had been used by the galaxy's first spacefaring civilizations. Zorthak read the words slowly, his 4 eyes tracing, each symbol with growing horror. Planetary designation, Crucible Prime. Status, Quarantine Absolute. Species designation, Terran Prime. Status, Extinct, Voluntary Isolation, Threat Level, Maximum. Zorthak sat down heavily in his chair. Crucible Prime. He'd heard that name whispered in the deepest archives, spoken of only in connection with the galaxy's darkest legends. But those were just stories, weren't they? Tales told to frighten young archivists working the night shifts. Computer, display all available information on Crucible Prime. Warning, requested information is classified at the highest levels. Psychological safety protocols recommend limited exposure. Proceed? Proceed. The chamber around Zorthak transformed. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing star charts that were millions of years old. In the center, a small yellow star with several planets. The third planet glowed with a sickly red light in the ancient projections. Crucible Prime, the computer began, was identified by early galactic surveys as a Class 12 death world. Gravitational anomalies, extreme weather patterns, massive predators, toxic atmosphere, unstable geology, and frequent extinction-level events made it unsuitable for colonization by any known species. Images flashed around Zorthak, showing a world of incredible violence. Massive creatures with teeth like swords hunted other beasts the size of buildings. The ground shook with earthquakes that could split continents. Ice ages came and went like seasons, each one capable of killing entire ecosystems. Despite these conditions, the computer continued. Life not only survived on Crucible Prime, it thrived. Species evolved at an accelerated rate, developing adaptability and survival instincts beyond standard galactic parameters. More images appeared, creatures that could survive in environments that would kill most galactic species instantly, animals that used tools, plants that moved and hunted. An entire biosphere locked in constant warfare, where only the strongest, smartest, and most adaptable could survive. Initial contact with Crucible Prime species was made approximately 57,000 standard years ago, the computer said. Results were catastrophic. Zorthak leaned forward. This was the part of the story that existed only in rumors and legends. The first contact that had gone so wrong it had shaped galactic policy for millennia. The holographic display showed ancient star maps marked with symbols of destruction, entire solar systems marked with red X's, trade routes that had been abandoned, colonies that had simply vanished. The Terran Prime species demonstrated unprecedented adaptability when removed from their homeworld environment, the computer explained. They could survive in any atmosphere, eat any organic matter, and reproduce in conditions that would kill most galactic species. More concerning was their technological advancement rate. Images flashed showing incredible feats of engineering. Massive ships built from materials that shouldn't have been able to hold together. Weapons that used the fundamental forces of the universe as ammunition. Cities that could survive the death of their host stars. But their most dangerous trait, the computer continued, was their psychological makeup. Terran Prime species showed no fear of death, no hesitation to sacrifice themselves for their group's survival, and an inability to surrender when facing overwhelming odds. They viewed every challenge as a problem to be solved, every enemy as an obstacle to overcome. Zorthak shuddered. He'd heard stories about the ancient wars when species fought until entire worlds were cracked apart. But those stories had always seemed like myths. Now he was seeing the evidence that they were real. What happened to them? He asked. After 17 standard years of expansion, Terran Prime forces suddenly ceased all hostile activity. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures around Crucible Prime, suggesting large-scale technological projects. Then, silence. The display showed the last recorded images of human space, ships returning to their homeworld, colonies being abandoned, space installations being dismantled, and then nothing. No Terran Prime vessel was detected in galactic space for the following 50,000 years, the computer said. Crucible Prime was declared quarantined and removed from all standard databases. The location was classified at the highest levels and access was restricted to senior archivists only. Zorthak stared at the display. Are you telling me that the humans who just applied for council membership are the same species? Genetic analysis of provided samples confirms 99.7% match with archived Terran Prime biological data. Physical appearance matches recorded descriptions. Cultural artifacts show consistent patterns with historical records. The senior archivist felt all four of his heart skip beats. The most dangerous species in galactic history, the legendary Terrans who had once carved a path of destruction across known space, had returned, and they'd just been welcomed into the council chambers. Computer, what was the final recommendation regarding Terran Prime species? The display changed, showing an official document signed by every major galactic power of the ancient era. The text was clear and unambiguous. In the event of Terran Prime return to galactic space, all member species are advised to implement Protocol Exodus immediately. Do not attempt contact. Do not attempt negotiation. Evacuate all personnel from potential contact zones and retreat to designated safe systems. Zorthak read the document 3 times, hoping he'd misunderstood. But there was no ambiguity. The Bia, galaxy's greatest civilizations, species with technologies that seemed like magic even today, had all agreed on one thing. If the humans ever came back, everyone else should run. Computer, what is Protocol Exodus? Protocol Exodus, complete evacuation of all inhabited systems within 500 light-years of Terran Prime space. Establishment of monitoring stations at extreme range. No direct contact authorized under any circumstances. The senior archivist stood up on shaking legs. Above him, 50 levels up, Ambassador Elena Vasquez was probably still in the council chambers, wondering why her species integration had gone wrong. She had no idea that her people were legendary monsters from the galaxy's darkest age. But Zorthak had a choice to make. The protocols were clear. Protocol Exodus should be implemented immediately. But protocols written 50,000 years ago might not apply to the situation today. The humans seemed different, peaceful. They'd brought gifts and spoke of cooperation. Then again, the ancient records were equally clear about Terran adaptability. Perhaps this peaceful appearance was just another adaptation, another survival strategy. Perhaps after 50,000 years alone, they'd learned new ways to get what they wanted. Computer, how many council members have access to this information? Current access list contains 3 individuals: Senior Archivist Zorthak, Council Speaker Vex-High Emergency Protocols, and Archive Director Moltanto Historical. Research clearance. 3 people in the entire galaxy knew the truth about humanity's real identity. 3 people who would have to decide whether to trigger protocols that would evacuate trillions of beings from their homes, or trust that the legendary Terrans had somehow learned to be something other than the perfect galactic predators their ancestors had been. Zorthak looked at the displays one more time, studying the images of humanity's ancient expansion. Ships that moved like living things, weapons that could crack planets, and always the humans themselves. Bipedal mammals with forward-facing eyes like predators, hands that could build or destroy with equal skill, and minds that never, ever gave up. Computer, compile a full briefing package on Terran Prime species, he commanded. Include all historical data, threat assessments, and recommended protocols. Mark it for immediate delivery to Speaker Vex-High and Archive Director Moltanto. Briefing package compiled. Delivery method? Zorthak paused. Once he sent this information, there would be no going back. The decision to trust or fear humanity would be out of his hands. Secure transmission highest priority, and computer? Yes, Senior Archivist? Add a personal note. The Terrans have returned. May the galaxy survive what comes next. Archive Director Moltanto received the emergency transmission at 0347 Galactic Standard Time. The Cathari rarely slept, but even he had been resting in his meditation chamber when the priority alert came through. His tentacles moved quickly, across the control panel, downloading Zorthak's briefing package with growing alarm. The words Terran Prime sent ice through his blue-green bloodstream. Every species in the galaxy had legends about the ancient terror from beyond the rim. Parents told their children stories about the creatures who could survive anything, who turned every challenge into a weapon, who never stopped hunting once. They'd chosen a target, but those were just stories, weren't they? Moltanto's primary eyes read while his secondary eyes watched security monitors throughout the archive facility. If the humans truly were the legendary Terrans, then protocols established 50,000 years ago made the situation clear. Everyone needed to evacuate the galaxy's core systems immediately. His communication device chimed. Speaker Vexhi's image appeared, all four eyes wide with barely controlled panic. Moltanto, please tell me Zorthak's report is some kind of mistake, the speaker said without preamble. I'm still reviewing the data, Moltanto replied, his tentacles moving across multiple displays simultaneously. But the genetic matches are undeniable. The humans are definitely descendants of the Terran prime species. The same Terrans who carved through the Andromeda sector like it was empty space? The ones who turned the Vega supernova into a weapon? Those Terrans? Moltanto nodded grimly. According to the archives, yes. The same species that caused the Great Evacuation and the establishment of the Outer Rim quarantine zones. Speaker Vexhi's forearms gestured helplessly. But they seemed so normal, peaceful. The ambassador brought us coffee and music. The reports indicate that Terran adaptability extends beyond physical survival, Moltanto said, reading from the ancient files. They were noted for their ability to blend into any social situation, to present themselves as harmless, until it was too late for their targets to respond effectively. Both beings fell silent, contemplating the implications. Somewhere in the council station, Ambassador Elena Vasquez was probably sleeping peacefully, unaware that her species' true identity had just turned the galactic government upside down. What did the protocols say we should do? Speaker Vexhi asked. Moltanto pulled up the relevant documents. Protocol Exodus calls for immediate evacuation of all systems within 500 light-years of Terran space. That would include most of the Council's core worlds, including our headquarters here. That's impossible, the speaker said. We're talking about trillions of beings. The economic disruption alone would destroy galactic civilization. The alternative, Moltanto reminded him, according to these files, is potentially much worse. While the two officials debated, neither noticed the subtle changes beginning throughout Council space. The humans, as part of their integration process, had been sending cultural exchange materials to planets across the galaxy. Human movies, books, and music were being translated and distributed. Human merchants had begun setting up trading posts. Human scientists were collaborating with alien researchers, and everywhere humans went, they left an impression. On Zirion Prime, the crystalline inhabitants had discovered human music and found themselves moved to emotions they'd never experienced before. The complex harmonies and rhythms spoke to something deep in their silicon-based consciousness. Dr. Sarah Chen, a human xenobiologist working on New Altair, had solved a plague that had been killing the plant-based Verdani for over a century. Her solution was simple. She'd noticed that the disease only affected plants that grew in perfect soil conditions. By deliberately introducing controlled stress factors, she'd made the Verdani stronger and immune to the plague. It's basic evolutionary biology, she'd explained to her amazed colleagues. Sometimes a little stress makes you tougher. On the manufacturing world of Kextar, human engineer Marcus Webb had revolutionized the assembly processes by suggesting something radical, designing machines that could break down and be rebuilt quickly when they inevitably failed, rather than trying to build machines that never failed. Everything breaks eventually, he'd told the Kextarian production managers. The trick is being ready for it when it happens. These stories and hundreds more were filtering back to the Council through routine reports. Individually, they seemed positive. Humans were helpful, innovative, and surprisingly good at solving problems that had stumped other species for centuries. But when Moltanto began reviewing these reports in context with the historical files, a pattern emerged that made his tentacles curl with anxiety. Speaker, he called urgently. You need to see this. Vexhi's image reappeared on the communication screen. What now? I've been analyzing the integration reports from the past few weeks. Look at this data pattern. Moltanto shared his screen, showing a galaxy-wide map with markers indicating human activity, trade routes, Scientific collaborations, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic meetings formed a web of connections spreading outward from Earth. They're everywhere, Vexhai observed. But so far all the reports are positive, no conflicts, no aggressive behavior. That's exactly what worries me, Moltanto said. Look at the historical expansion pattern from 50,000 years ago. He overlaid another map showing ancient Terran expansion routes. The patterns were nearly identical: rapid dispersal, establishment of key strategic positions, and integration with local populations. The difference, Moltanto continued, is that this time they're not using military force. They're using economics, science, and culture. They're making themselves indispensable. Speaker Vexhai stared at the comparison. You're saying they're invading us with kindness? I'm saying they're demonstrating the same strategic thinking that made their ancestors so dangerous, but they've adapted their methods. Instead of conquering through fear, they're conquering through usefulness. The implications settled over both beings like a heavy blanket. The ancient Terrans had been terrifying because they'd been direct about their intentions. These modern humans might be even more dangerous because they weren't. We need to convene an emergency session of the Inner Council, Vexhai decided. Full classification protocols. Only species representatives with maximum security clearance. What about the humans? Ambassador Vasquez will be told that her species integration is being delayed for additional review. We'll blame bureaucratic procedures. And if she asks questions? Speaker Vexhai's four eyes met Moltanto's primary pair. We lie, because if we tell her the truth, if we tell her that her species are the legendary monsters from our darkest history, one of two things will happen. Which are? Either she'll be horrified and convince her people to return to isolation, which solves our immediate problem but leaves us wondering what they might do next. Or she'll smile and thank us for the information, and then we'll know for certain that the ancient Terrans have simply learned to be more subtle about their conquest strategies. While the galaxy's leadership grappled with revelations that threatened to reshape interstellar politics, Elena Vasquez sat in her quarters aboard the council station, video calling her family back on Earth. Her young daughter sat at their kitchen table doing homework while Elena's husband prepared dinner. How did the integration go, Mom? Her daughter asked, looking up from her mathematics textbook. There were some technical difficulties with their computer systems, Elena replied diplomatically. But I'm sure we'll sort everything out soon. How was school? We're learning about problem solving in math class. Mrs. Patterson says humans are really good at finding solutions to difficult problems because we never give up trying. Elena smiled. That's right, sweetie. When things get tough, we just work harder to find a way through. Her husband joined the conversation from the kitchen. Any idea when you'll be coming home? Soon, I hope. The council just needs some time to process all our paperwork. You know how bureaucracy works. They chatted for a few more minutes about ordinary things, school projects, work schedules, weekend plans, normal human concerns on a normal Tuesday evening. Elena had no idea that her innocent conversation was being monitored by some of the galaxy's most advanced intelligence systems. In the depths of the council's analysis centers, translation computers worked to understand not just what the humans were saying, but what their casual conversations revealed about their psychology. The results were troubling. Humans talked about problems the way other species discussed weather. Challenges were analyzed, solutions were proposed, and failures were viewed as learning opportunities. Even their children were taught systematic approaches to overcoming obstacles. More disturbing was their casual attitude toward danger. Elena's husband mentioned that their neighbor had been in a car accident but was tough enough to bounce back. Their daughter talked about her soccer team's strategy for defeating the championship rivals. Every conversation contained military language used in peaceful contexts. The monitoring reports landed on Moltanto's desk with increasing urgency. Each analysis painted the same picture. Humans were psychologically adapted for conflict resolution at levels that other species found incomprehensible. When the Zephyrian delegate had complained about rising ocean acidity on his homeworld, the human solution was to fight the chemistry with better chemistry. When the Vorthak mentioned energy shortages, humans suggested aggressive efficiency. programs, and attacking waste at its source. To other species, these were just helpful suggestions. But to beings who remembered the old stories, this language revealed something terrifying. Humans viewed everything as a conflict to be won. They couldn't simply exist. They had to overcome. And if recent human expansion patterns were any indication, they were very, very good at winning. The inner council chamber was smaller than the main assembly hall, but its atmosphere carried more weight. Only 12 beings sat around the circular table, the representatives of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. Each had been briefed on the Terran situation. Each had access to the restricted archives, and each understood that their next decision might determine the fate of galactic civilization. Speaker Vexhai stood at the center of the circle, his forearms gesturing to holographic displays that showed humanity's rapid integration into council, space, trade agreements, scientific collaborations, cultural exchanges, all expanding at rates that would have been impressive for any species. For the legendary Terrans, they were terrifying. In 3 weeks, Vexhai announced, humans have established permanent presence on over 200 worlds. They've opened trade negotiations with 47 different species. Their scientists are collaborating on projects ranging from stellar engineering to biological research. Councillor Thexera's crystalline body flickered with worried orange patterns. The expansion rate matches historical Terran colonization models exactly, but the methods are completely different. Different how? Asked Mordeth, the reptilian representative, whose species held genetic memories of the ancient wars. They're not taking anything, Thexera replied, confusion evident in his bioluminescent displays. Every interaction has been mutually beneficial. They solve problems, provide resources, share knowledge. By every measurable standard, their presence improves conditions wherever they establish themselves. The chamber fell silent as the delegates contemplated this paradox. The ancient Terrans had been feared precisely because they took what they wanted through force. These modern humans seemed to be giving more than they received. Perhaps, suggested the melodic concordance delegate, her voice harmonizing with itself in worried tones. They have genuinely evolved beyond their ancestors' aggressive tendencies. Mordeth's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the chamber's recycled air. Or perhaps, he hissed, they have simply learned more effective hunting strategies. Archive Director Maltanto activated a new display. I've been analyzing human behavioral patterns from our monitoring systems. The results are concerning. Images appeared showing humans in various situations across council space, scientists working late into their species' sleep cycles to solve urgent problems, diplomats learning alien languages at impossible speeds, engineers redesigning systems they'd never seen before with intuitive understanding. Every human we've observed displays the same behavioral pattern, Maltanto explained. When confronted with a challenge, they immediately begin analyzing it for weaknesses. When they find a solution, they implement it with complete commitment. When they fail, they try again with modifications. That sounds like normal problem-solving behavior, observed Councillor Yithgara of the Peaceful Meadows Confederation. For a human, yes, Maltanto replied. But watch this comparison analysis. The display split, showing human responses to problems, alongside typical responses from other galactic species. When faced with a broken water recycling system, the human engineer had taken it completely apart, redesigned the filtration process, and improved efficiency by 30%. When faced with the same problem, the original alien engineers had simply called for replacement parts. Humans don't just fix problems, Maltanto continued. They improve everything they touch, and they do it instinctively, without apparent effort. Speaker Vexhai nodded grimly, which brings us to the real question. What do we do about it? The protocols are clear, stated Councillor Kethvar of the First Empire. The ancient being's voice carried the authority of a species that had dominated the galaxy when most current civilizations were still discovering fire. Protocol Exodus must be implemented immediately. You're talking about evacuating trillions of beings, protested Yithgara. The disruption would be catastrophic. Less catastrophic than what happened to the hegemon spiral, Kethvar reminded. Them. The Terrans didn't just conquer those systems, they improved them so efficiently that the original inhabitants became completely dependent on Terran management. When the Terrans withdrew, entire civilizations collapsed. The chamber's environmental controls worked harder to process the stress pheromones being released by various species. Fear had a distinctive chemical signature, and it was rapidly filling the air. What if we simply denied their council membership? Suggested Thexra. Politely informed them that their application was rejected? Mordeth's laugh was a harsh hissing sound. And then what? They return to their homeworld and develop, in isolation for another few thousand years. How much more advanced might they become? How much more dangerous? We could monitor them, offered the Concordance delegate. Keep watch from a distance. Ensure they don't develop threatening technologies. With what? Moltanto asked pointedly. Human technology is already approaching parity with our most advanced systems in several areas. Their rate of improvement suggests they'll surpass us within decades. The debate continued for hours, but underneath the formal arguments, a darker understanding was growing. The humans weren't just back, they were better. More efficient, more adaptable, more dangerous than their legendary ancestors had ever been, and they were being incredibly nice about it. I've reviewed the historical files extensively, said Senior Counselor Valthera, whose insectoid species had survived the original Terran expansion by hiding in deep space. The ancient Terrans were brutal but predictable. You knew they were coming, you knew what they wanted, and you could prepare accordingly. These modern humans are different, she continued, her mandibles clicking with agitation. They don't want territory or resources. They want to help. And that makes them infinitely more dangerous. Explain, requested Kethvar. When someone attacks you, you know you're in a fight. You can respond with appropriate force, call for allies, develop countermeasures. But when someone helps you, improves your life, solves your problems, how do you defend against that? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Every delegate understood the implications. Humanity was conquering the galaxy with kindness, efficiency, and genuine helpfulness, and there was no defense against it. We could warn other species, suggested Yithgara weakly. Warn them of what? Mordeth challenged. That humans are too helpful, that they solve problems too effectively, that they improve everything they touch? We could share the historical files, Thexra offered. Show them what the ancient Terrans were capable of. Historical files from 50,000 years ago, Moltanto pointed out, describing a species that used entirely different methods to achieve their goals. Most species would dismiss the information as irrelevant ancient history. The debate circled back to the same fundamental problem. Humanity was doing exactly what made them legendary, but they were doing it so positively that stopping them would make the council appear paranoid and irrational. Speaker Vexhai called for order. We need a decision. The human ambassador is waiting for our response to their membership application. Every day we delay, they integrate further into galactic society. I propose a compromise, said Counselor Murthak of the Deep Ocean Worlds. His species had remained neutral in most galactic conflicts, which gave his words additional weight. We grant them provisional membership with monitoring provisions. What kind of monitoring? Asked Kethvar suspiciously. Full surveillance of human activities, mandatory reporting on all technological developments, restrictions on expansion rates and colony establishment. If they truly are peaceful, they should accept reasonable precautions. And if they refuse the restrictions? Murthak's bioluminescent patches pulsed with determined light. Then we implement Protocol Exodus and evacuate the core systems. Better to abandon our worlds voluntarily than have them improved beyond recognition. The vote was close. 7 in favor, 5 opposed. Humanity would be granted provisional council membership, but under the most restrictive monitoring regime in galactic history. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, each carried the weight of knowing they had just made a decision that would echo across the stars. Either they had found a way to coexist with the most dangerous species in galactic history, or they had just given that species official permission to improve the galaxy to death. Outside the inner council chamber, Ambassador Elena Vasquez waited patiently in a comfortable guest suite, reading reports from human trade delegations and scientific teams. Every report was positive, every collaboration was successful, every problem they encountered was being solved. She smiled as she read about the breakthrough in quantum farming that would feed billions, the new medical techniques saving lives across dozens of worlds, and the diplomatic solutions to conflicts that had lasted for centuries. Humanity was making friends everywhere they went. They were building a better galaxy, one helpful act at a time, and in the restricted archives deep below, automated systems continued their ancient vigil, monitoring for signs that the legendary Terrans had returned to reclaim their place as the galaxy's apex species. The signs were everywhere, but this time they wore smiles. 6 months had passed since humanity's provisional acceptance into the Galactic Council, and the galaxy was changing in ways no one had predicted. The monitoring systems put in place to watch human activities generated reports that filled databases faster than analysts could review them. Every report told the same story. Humans were everywhere, and everywhere they went, things got better. Senior Archivist Zorthak sat in his office surrounded by holographic displays showing the transformation. On Kepler 442b, human agricultural, specialists had ended a famine that had plagued the Rothani for 3 generations. The solution was elegant. Instead of fighting the planet's acidic soil, they had developed crops that thrived in those conditions and actually improved the Earth while growing. On the manufacturing world of New Tokyo Prime, human engineers had revolutionized production by implementing something they called continuous improvement philosophy. Rather than building perfect systems that never failed, they created systems that learned from their failures and became stronger. Productivity had increased by 200%. The medical breakthrough on Andromeda Station was perhaps most impressive. Dr. Lisa Park, a human xenobiologist, had cured the crystalline plague that had been slowly killing the Vorthak collective for millennia. Her solution was simple. She realized the disease wasn't actually a disease at all, but a natural adaptation response. By providing the right environmental conditions, she turned the plague into a beneficial mutation. Every story's the same, Zorthak muttered to himself, reviewing the endless positive reports. Problem identified, solution implemented, situation improved. They make it look effortless. His communication device chimed. Speaker Vexhai appeared on screen, looking tired, but oddly relieved. Zorthak, I need you to compile a comprehensive report on human integration progress. The Inner Council is meeting tomorrow to review our monitoring protocols. Another review? Zorthak asked. We've been watching them for 6 months. What more do we need to know? The question, Vexhai replied carefully, is whether we need to keep watching them at all. The implications of that statement settled over Zorthak like a heavy blanket. The galaxy's leadership was considering removing the restrictions on humanity. After 50,000 years of quarantine protocols and terror about the legendary Terrans, they were thinking about treating humans as just another member species. Are we certain they're not a threat? Zorthak asked. Look at the evidence, Vexhai said, gesturing to share his screen. 6 months of the most intensive monitoring in galactic history. We've watched their every move, analyzed their every decision, studied their every innovation. And what have we found? The display showed statistics that would have been unbelievable if they weren't thoroughly documented. Human-assisted projects had a 94% success rate compared to the galactic average of 67%. Conflicts in systems with human diplomatic involvement had decreased by 78%. Economic growth in regions with human trade partnerships had increased by an average of 45%. They're not conquering us, Vexhai continued. They're improving us, and they're doing it so effectively that our own people are starting to demand more human involvement in their governments. This was true. Zorthak had seen the reports from across Council space. The Meridian Collective had officially requested human advisors for their environmental restoration project. The Spiral Arm Federation was negotiating exclusive trade agreements with human merchants. Even the traditionally xenophobic Outer Rim territories were opening discussions about human scientific collaborations. What about the historical warnings? Zorthak asked. The ancient protocols? Everything our predecessors learned about Terran Expansion? Perhaps, Vexai said slowly. Our predecessors were wrong. Or perhaps the humans have genuinely evolved beyond what they once were. Zorthak pulled up his own analysis of human behavioral patterns. The data was extensive. 6 months of monitoring had generated psychological profiles more detailed than existed for most species, and those profiles painted a picture that both confirmed and contradicted every assumption about humanity. Humans were indeed the adaptable, persistent, innovative species described in the ancient records. They approached every challenge with the same systematic determination that had once made them galactic terrors. They never gave up, never accepted failure as permanent, and never stopped looking for better solutions. But they had also developed something the ancient Terrans had apparently lacked: wisdom about when not to use their abilities for conquest. I've been reviewing the integration reports from their homeworld, Zorthak said. Do you know what humans call their own planet? Earth, according to their application. That's just one name. They have dozens of names for it in different languages, but the most common themes are soil, ground, and home. They don't think of their world as a fortress or a launching point. They think of it as where they belong. Vexai leaned forward with interest. Go on. The ancient Terrans were defined, by expansion, by the need to overcome and conquer everything they encountered. These modern humans seem to be defined by something else entirely: the desire to make things work better. The same result, achieved through different motivations? Maybe. Or maybe they learned something during their 50,000 years of isolation that changed them fundamentally. Zorthak activated another display, showing cultural analysis reports from human entertainment and literature. Look at their stories. The themes that dominate human fiction are cooperation, problem-solving, and building better societies. Even their adventure stories focus more on protecting and improving than on conquering and destroying. That could be cultural camouflage, Vexai pointed out. The ancient Terrans were noted for their ability to blend into any society. Possibly. But consider this. Humans have been integrating with our societies for 6 months. They've had access to our technologies, our databases, our political systems. If they wanted to take over, wouldn't they have started by now? It was a fair question. Human learning rates were extraordinarily fast. Their scientists had already contributed breakthrough discoveries in fields it took other species centuries to master. Their engineers were redesigning systems they'd never seen before. Their diplomats were solving conflicts that had seemed impossible to resolve. If humans wanted to conquer the galaxy, they had already demonstrated they had the capability, but instead of using their advantages for domination, they seemed genuinely committed to using them for improvement. There's something else, Zorthak continued, pulling up reports from the monitoring stations around Earth. We've been watching their homeworld, as well as their expansion activities. Do you know what we've observed? Surprise me. They're fixing it. The environmental damage from their industrial development, the social problems from resource competition, the political conflicts from territorial disputes. They're systematically solving every major problem their species has ever created. The images showed a planet in transformation, cities being rebuilt with sustainable technologies, oceans being cleaned of industrial pollution, forests being replanted with species thought extinct, and everywhere, humans working together with the same cooperative determination they showed in council space. They're not just improving our worlds, Zorthak realized aloud. They're improving their own world using the same methods. This isn't conquest behavior. It's healing behavior. Speaker Vexai stared at the display for a long moment. Are you suggesting that the legendary Terrans, the most dangerous species in galactic history, have spent 50,000 years learning how to be gardeners instead of warriors? I'm suggesting, Zorthak replied, that maybe the most dangerous species in galactic history figured out that building things is more satisfying than breaking them. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent priority message. Ambassador Elena Vasquez was requesting an immediate meeting with the council leadership. Her message was brief but intriguing. Important announcement regarding Earth's future relationship with the galactic community. Within an hour, The inner council had convened an emergency session. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, looking calm and confident despite being surrounded by beings who could decide the fate of her entire species. "Honored counselors," she began, "I come to you today with a proposal that I hope will benefit all our peoples." She activated a holographic display showing star charts of human expansion throughout council space. "Over the past 6 months, humanity has been privileged to work alongside your various species on hundreds of different projects. We've learned much, and we hope we've contributed meaningfully to your societies." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Even the most skeptical delegates had to admit that human contributions had been overwhelmingly positive. "However," Elena continued, "we've also learned something troubling. We've discovered that many of the galaxy's greatest challenges, environmental collapse, resource scarcity, social conflict, technological stagnation, are problems humanity faced and solved on our own world centuries ago." She paused, letting that revelation settle over the chamber. "We've also learned that for reasons we don't fully understand, many species seem to view us with a combination of admiration and fear. We're not sure why, but we respect that our presence may be causing anxiety among some of our galactic neighbors." Speaker Vexhai found himself holding his breath. Where was this leading? "Therefore," Elena announced, "humanity formally requests permission to establish a galactic improvement initiative. We propose to share our problem-solving methodologies, our technological innovations, and our cultural approaches to conflict. Resolution with any species that wishes to participate." The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. This wasn't what anyone had expected. "Furthermore," Elena continued, raising her voice to be heard over the discussion, "we propose to do this transparently with full council oversight and participation. We want to work with you, not for you or instead of you." Councillor Kethvar of the First Empire leaned forward. "What do you want in return?" Elena smiled. "The same thing we've always wanted, to be part of something bigger than ourselves. To contribute to a galaxy where everyone has the chance to thrive. And if your offer is refused, then we'll respect that decision and continue our integration at whatever pace the council deems appropriate. We're not going anywhere. We have nowhere else to go. This is our galaxy too now." The simplicity of the answer was somehow more convincing than any elaborate diplomatic statement could have been. Here was humanity, offering to share the capabilities that made them legendary, asking for nothing in return except acceptance and the opportunity to help. After Elena left the chamber, the inner council deliberated for hours. The debate was intense but ultimately pointless. Humanity had just offered to voluntarily share the secrets that made them potentially dangerous. They were proposing to teach other species to be more like them, rather than using their advantages to dominate. The final vote was unanimous. Humanity would be granted full council membership, all monitoring restrictions would be lifted, and the Galactic Improvement Initiative would be established with full council support. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Zorthak approached Speaker Vexhai with one final observation. "Do you realize what just happened?" the old archivist asked. "Enlighten me." "The most dangerous species in galactic history just convinced us to let them teach everyone else to be more dangerous too." Vexhai paused in the doorway. "Does that concern you?" Zorthak considered the question carefully. "No," he said finally. "Because I think they just proved that being dangerous isn't the same thing as being a threat. And maybe, just maybe, a galaxy full of beings who never give up and always look for better solutions is exactly what we need." In the depths of the Yao archives, automated systems that had maintained their vigilant watch for 50,000 years finally powered down. The warnings about Terran return were no longer necessary. The Terrans had returned, exactly as predicted. They had integrated into galactic society, exactly as feared. They were changing everything they touched, exactly as the ancient protocols had warned. But instead of conquest, they had brought cooperation. Instead of domination, they had offered partnership. Instead of the galaxy ending, it was just beginning to become something better than it had ever been before. And in a small apartment on Council Station, Elena Vasquez video called her family back on Earth, telling them about her successful day at work, completely unaware that she had just helped write the next chapter in galactic history.
Tom Walker yawned as he guided the mining vessel through the asteroid belt. Another day, another load of rock to scan for precious metals. Life as a deep space miner paid well enough, but the excitement had worn off years ago. Coffee. Anna Miller appeared at his side, holding out a steaming cup. Thanks. Tom took the cup, his eyes never leaving the view screen. Anything worth stopping for? Anna checked her scanner. Not yet. Just the usual iron and nickel. Nothing valuable enough to. She stopped mid-sentence, frowning at her display. What is it? Tom asked, suddenly alert. I'm picking up something strange. Anna adjusted the scanner settings. It's big, about 200 meters long. Metal composition. But the readings don't match anything in our database. Tom's heartbeat quickened. A ship. Maybe. Anna looked up, eyes wide. But it's not broadcasting any identification signal. Tom changed course, steering toward the mysterious object. As they drew closer, both miners fell silent. Floating in the void between two large asteroids was a vessel unlike anything they had ever seen. It was sleek and dark, with a surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The hull had no visible seams, as if it had been poured as a single piece. No markings, no windows, no external equipment. Just a smooth, unbroken surface that curved into an elegant, almost organic shape. Is that man-made? Tom whispered. Anna shook her head slowly. I don't think it's man-anything. First contact. Tom's voice was barely audible. Maybe. Anna checked her instruments again. No life signs that I can detect. Tom activated the ship's communication system. Unknown vessel. This is mining ship Aurora. Do you copy? Silence answered him. We should call this in, Anna said. This is way above our pay grade. Tom nodded and opened a channel to Earth Defense Force headquarters. Within minutes, they received orders to maintain position and wait for an EDF vessel to arrive. 6 hours later, the EDF cruiser Sentinel dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby. Captain James Reed wasted no time in hailing the miners. Aurora, this is Captain Reed of the EDF Sentinel. We're taking over from here. Good work finding this, whatever it is. Tom's voice came back over the comm. Captain, this thing is like nothing I've ever seen. It's just been sitting there. No movement, no signals. We'll handle it from here, Reed assured him. Stand by for retrieval of your sensor data. After downloading all information from the mining vessel, Reed ordered the Aurora to maintain a safe distance while his team investigated. Dr. Jones, what do you make of it? Reed asked his science officer. Dr. Linda Jones studied the scans with fascination. It's definitely artificial, but the material composition is impossible. The alloy doesn't match anything in our database, and there are energy readings from inside, but I can't identify the source. Life signs? Reed asked. None that our sensors can detect, Jones replied, but something is generating power in there. Reed made his decision. Prepare a boarding team. Full environmental suits and weapons ready, but set to non-lethal. Let's not start an interstellar incident if we can help it. An hour later, Reed led his team through the airlock and onto the mysterious vessel. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing smooth, curved corridors that seemed to flow from one section to another without joints or wells. It's like being inside a living organism, whispered Lieutenant Park as he ran a gloved hand along the wall. Focus, people, Reed ordered. Jones, which way to the energy source? Dr. Jones consulted her scanner. Straight ahead. About 50 meters then. This can't be right. She frowned at her device and tapped it. What's wrong? Reed asked. The internal layout doesn't match the exterior dimensions. It's like the space inside is folding in on itself somehow. As they moved deeper into the ship, Reed noticed something strange. There were no control panels, no screens, no obvious technology of any kind. just smooth, flowing corridors that occasionally widened into empty chambers. "Where's the bridge?" "The engine room." Lieutenant Park voiced what they were all thinking. How does anyone control this thing? "Maybe they don't need controls like we do," Jones suggested. "Maybe the ship responds to something else. Thoughts, perhaps, or some form of direct neural interface." They continued forward until they reached a large circular chamber at what seemed to be the center of the ship. In the middle floated a crystalline structure about the size of a basketball, glowing with a soft blue light. "That's our energy source," Jones said, moving closer. "It's putting out more power than a nuclear reactor, but I don't understand how." Anna Miller, who had been invited along as one of the discoverers, stepped forward in awe. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Before anyone could stop her, Anna reached out, her gloved hand moving toward the crystal. "Miller, don't." Reed began, but it was too late. As her fingers touched the crystal's surface, a pulse of energy surged through the chamber. The lights in their suits flickered, and their comms crackled with static. The crystal's glow intensified, and patterns of light began to flow along the walls, ceiling, and floor. Anna gasped and stumbled backward. It spoke to me," she said, her voice trembling. "What do you mean, it spoke to you?" Reed demanded. "Not with words," Anna explained, eyes wide. "With images, feelings. It's alive, Captain. The ship is alive." Before Reed could respond, a holographic display materialized in the air above the crystal. Strange symbols flowed across it, then transformed into English letters. "Hello." The team stared in shocked silence. "IHAVB and waiting." "Who are you?" Reed asked cautiously. "What are you?" The text shifted again. "I am ship. I was not built. I grew. I evolved. From dust, between stars, over millions of years." "That's impossible," Jones whispered. "Evolution does not require biology, only time and energy." Anna stepped forward again. "Why are you here?" "In our solar system. Hiding. Running. Others hunting my kind." Reed's tactical mind immediately shifted to defense. "Others? Who's hunting you?" The holographic display dimmed momentarily, then brightened with new text. "They come. Now. They detected my awakening." "Who's coming?" Reed demanded. "Empire. VX Imperium. They destroy all they cannot control." The ship's internal lights pulsed with urgency. "They are here." At that moment, Reed's communicator buzzed with an incoming emergency message from the Sentinel. "Captain, we've detected multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. Massive energy signatures, unlike anything we've ever seen." Reed looked at the crystal, then at his team, his face grim. "How many?" he asked. "Hundreds, sir, and they're headed straight for us." The holographic display pulsed one final message: "Prepare." And the hunt had begun. Captain Reed's face hardened as he stared at the holographic display. The incoming fleet was massive. Hundreds of ships in tight formation, moving with purpose and precision. "Everyone back to the Sentinel. Now," Reed ordered. "Miller, you too." Anna shook her head, her eyes never leaving the crystal. "Captain, I can feel it. The ship is afraid." "Miller, that's an order," Reed said firmly. As the team hurried back toward the airlock, the mysterious vessel suddenly hummed to life. Lights pulsed along the corridors, guiding their way. When they reached the airlock, they found it had changed, expanded to allow for faster evacuation. "It's helping us," Jones said in wonder. Once aboard the Sentinel, Reed opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. "Admiral Wilson, we have a situation. A large alien fleet has entered the solar system and appears to be heading straight for our position." Admiral Wilson's face appeared on screen, tension evident in her features. "We've detected them, Captain. All Earth defenses are on high alert. What's your assessment of the unknown vessel you discovered? It's sentient, sir. It appears to have evolved naturally rather than being constructed. It's communicated that these incoming ships belong to something called the Vex Imperium, and they're hunting ships like this one. Wilson's eyebrows rose. Evolved ships. That's hard to believe, Captain. I know how it sounds, sir, but... Reed was interrupted by Lieutenant Park. Captain, the alien fleet has halted just beyond Mars orbit. They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Put it through, Reed ordered. The view screen flickered, and a new face appeared. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Its skin was pale blue with faint markings that looked like circuit patterns. Eyes too large for its narrow face gleamed with a cold intelligence. "This is Admiral Krell of the Vex Imperium," the alien said in perfect English. "We come seeking the void seed that is hidden in your system. Surrender it immediately." Reed exchanged glances with his officers before responding. "This is Captain James Reed of the Earth Defense Force. We don't know what a void seed is. We've discovered an unusual vessel, but it was found in our solar system, which places it under Earth jurisdiction." Admiral Krell's expression didn't change, but his voice grew colder. "You are mistaken, human. The entity you call a vessel is a dangerous anomaly. It is one of several self-evolving constructs that have appeared throughout the galaxy. They pose a significant threat to all organized civilizations. It hasn't threatened us," Reed countered. "It will," Krell said simply. "These entities cannot be controlled or predicted. They evolve in ways that defy the natural order. The Vex Imperium has spent centuries hunting them for the safety of all." Anna Miller, who had been listening intently, suddenly spoke up. "That's not true. It's afraid of you because you destroy what you don't understand." Reed shot her a warning look, but Krell had already noticed her. "Interesting," the alien admiral said. "It appears the seed has already established a connection with one of your kind. This is further evidence of its dangerous nature." "Admiral Krell," Reed said, trying to regain control of the conversation, "this ship was found in Earth's solar system. Under interstellar common law, that makes it our responsibility. We request time to study it properly before any decisions are made." Krell was silent for a moment. "You have 1 Earth hour to surrender the void seed. After that, we will take action to secure it ourselves." The transmission ended abruptly. "Well, that went well," Lieutenant Park muttered. Reed turned to Miller. "You said you can feel the ship. What's it telling you now?" Anna closed her eyes for a moment. "It's showing me images. The Vex have been hunting its kind for centuries. Not because they're dangerous, but because they can't be controlled. The Vex Imperium conquers everything in its path. These evolved ships are the only things they haven't been able to bend to their will." "Can it defend itself?" Reed asked. "It doesn't know," Anna replied. "It's never had to before." Reed opened a channel to Earth again. "Admiral Wilson, I believe the alien fleet's intentions are hostile. Request immediate reinforcements. All available ships are already en route, Captain, but they won't arrive for at least 6 hours." Wilson's expression was grim. "You need to buy us time." Before Reed could respond, Lieutenant Park called out, "Multiple ships breaking formation. They're moving toward us." Reed made a quick decision. "Battle stations. Miller, tell your ship friend that it might want to wake up completely now." Anna closed her eyes, concentrating on her connection to the mysterious vessel. "It understands. It's doing something." Outside, the sleek black ship began to change. Its surface rippled like water, and sections of the hull reconfigured themselves. It moved away from the Sentinel, positioning itself between the Earth ship and the approaching Vex vessels. The lead Vex ship fired a brilliant beam of energy. It struck the evolved ship directly, but instead of damaging it, the beam seemed to be absorbed into its surface. "Incredible," Jones whispered, watching the readings on her console. "It's not just absorbing the energy, it's using it." The evolved ship began to glow with a soft blue light. The the same color as the crystal at its core. Then, without warning, it released a pulse of energy that spread outward like a ripple in a pond. When the pulse reached the Vex ships, they simply stopped. Their weapons powered down, and they drifted, seemingly lifeless. "What just happened?" Reed asked, stunned. "It disabled them somehow," Jones replied, checking her readings. "Not destroyed. Just turned them off." Admiral Krell's face appeared on the view screen again, his calm demeanor now replaced with barely controlled rage. "This is your final warning. The seed has revealed its true nature. It cannot be reasoned with or controlled. It defended itself against your attack," Reed pointed out. "It didn't destroy your ships when it could have." "You understand nothing," Krell hissed. "This is merely the beginning of its evolution. Once fully awakened, it will consume your world as it has others." Anna stepped forward. "That's a lie. It's showing me the truth. The Vex are the destroyers. They've conquered hundreds of worlds, enslaved countless species." Krell's eyes narrowed. "You have made your choice then." The transmission cut off. Moments later, the main Vex fleet began to move. Not just a few ships this time, but hundreds, all heading directly toward Earth. "They're bypassing us completely," Park reported, heading straight for the planet. Reed watched in horror as the massive alien armada accelerated toward his homeworld. Earth's orbital defenses were substantial, but nothing that could stand against a force of this size. "Miller," he said quietly, "ask your friend if it has any more tricks up its sleeve." Anna looked at him, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and determination. "It says it does, but it needs me with it." She gestured toward the mysterious ship floating outside. "On board." Reed hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Go, and for God's sake hurry." As Anna prepared to transfer back to the evolved ship, the first wave of Vex vessels reached Earth's outer defense perimeter. Bright flashes lit up space as the battle began. The fate of Earth now rested in the hands of a mining technician and a ship that no one built. Anna floated through the airlock of the evolved ship, her heart pounding. The moment she stepped inside, the walls pulsed with soft blue light, as if welcoming her back. "I'm here," she whispered. "What do you need me to do?" No words appeared this time. Instead, the corridor in front of her morphed, opening into a path that led straight to the central chamber where the crystal floated. As Anna approached it, the crystal glowed more intensely. "Earth is under attack," she said. "Can you help us?" The crystal pulsed once, and suddenly Anna felt a tingling sensation spreading from her fingertips up her arms. The sensation wasn't painful. It felt like gentle electricity flowing through her body. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. Images flashed through her mind. Stars being born, dust gathering over millions of years, slowly forming into complex structures. She saw other ships like this one, drifting through the emptiness of space, feeding on radiation and dark matter, growing and learning. "You want me to understand you," Anna realized. The crystal brightened in confirmation. More images came. The Vex ships hunting down the evolved vessels, capturing some, destroying others. She felt the ship's fear, its loneliness, and its hope when it found Earth's solar system, a place to hide, to rest. Then, without warning, Anna felt herself moving toward the crystal. Not physically. Her body remained in place, but her consciousness seemed to be drawn into the glowing object. For a brief moment, she panicked, but then a sense of calm washed over her. She wasn't being absorbed. She was being connected. "Oh," she breathed as understanding flooded her mind. "You need a partner." Through their new connection, Anna understood that the ship, which she instinctively named Phoenix, couldn't reach its full potential alone. It had evolved to work in harmony with a conscious mind, to form a symbiotic relationship that benefited both. With sudden clarity, Anna knew what to do. She opened herself fully to the connection, and Phoenix responded immediately. Outside, the ship transformed. Its smooth black surface rippled and shifted, extending outward to form a perfect sphere around itself and the Sentinel. As the sphere completed, the first wave of Vex weapons fire hit it and dissipated harmlessly. On the Sentinel's bridge, Captain Reed watched in awe as the mysterious shield protected them. "What's happening?" he asked Dr. Jones. She shook her head, staring at her readings. "It's creating some kind of energy field that's absorbing all incoming attacks. But that's not all." She looked up at Reed, her eyes wide. "The field is expanding. It's growing to encompass Earth's orbit." Reed watched the tactical display as the shield spread outward at impossible speed, soon covering the entire planet and its orbital defenses. The Vex weapons fire continued, but none penetrated the shield. His communication console beeped. "Captain Reed," came Anna's voice, sounding strangely distant. "Phoenix and I are buying you time." "Phoenix?" Reed questioned. "The ship, that's its name now. Listen carefully. Phoenix can't hold this shield forever. We need to understand more about what we're facing." Reed nodded, though Anna couldn't see him. "What do you need from us?" "Send Dr. Jones and Tom Walker over. And bring every scientist Earth can spare. We have work to do." 3 days later, Earth's greatest scientific minds had transformed the Sentinel into a floating research station. In the center of it all was Phoenix, with Anna serving as its voice and interpreter. Dr. Robert Green, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stared at the holographic display showing Phoenix's internal structure. "It's nothing like our technology," he said. "It doesn't use weapons as we understand them. It manipulates the fundamental forces of physics." Tom Walker, who had been working alongside the scientists, pointed to a section of the display. "Look here. The ship's outer layer isn't just armor. It's like a sensory organ. It can feel changes in gravity, radiation, even quantum fluctuations." Dr. Jones nodded excitedly. "And it adapts. See how its molecular structure has changed since the Vex attack. It's evolving in response to the threat." Captain Reed, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. "That's all fascinating, but can it help us fight the Vex? That shield won't hold forever." As if on cue, the lights dimmed briefly, and Anna entered the room. Everyone turned to look at her. There was something different about her now, a quiet confidence, an otherworldly awareness in her eyes. "The shield is holding," she said, "but Phoenix is right. We need to do more than defend. The Vex are sending more ships. Hundreds more." "What does Phoenix suggest?" Reed asked. Anna smiled slightly. "Phoenix doesn't want to fight. That's not what it evolved to do, but it will protect us if we show it how." "Show it how to fight?" Dr. Green asked, confused. "No," Anna replied. "Show it why fighting is sometimes necessary. It needs to understand humanity, our history, our struggles, our will to survive despite overwhelming odds." Reed nodded slowly. "So we need to educate it." "Yes," Anna said. "And it will educate us in return." Over the next few days, while the Vex fleet gathered beyond the shield, the scientists and military personnel worked tirelessly. They fed Phoenix information about Earth's history, culture, and scientific achievements. In return, Phoenix shared its knowledge of the cosmos, secrets of physics and energy that humans had barely begun to understand. Through Anna, they learned that Phoenix was one of many cosmic entities that had evolved naturally in the void between stars. These beings were rare, perhaps only a few dozen in the entire galaxy, and most kept to themselves, drifting through the emptiness, observing but never interfering. Phoenix was different. Younger than the others, more curious, it had come too close to inhabited worlds and attracted the attention of the Vex Imperium. When the Vex tried to capture it, Phoenix fled, eventually finding its way to Earth's solar system. The Vex wanted to study it, Tom said during one briefing session, to learn its secrets and use them for their conquests. Anna nodded. They've captured one of Phoenix's kind before. Everything they know about faster-than-light travel, energy weapons, shield technology. It's all stolen from an evolved ship they captured centuries ago. Reed's expression hardened. So they're not just conquerors. They're thieves too. Yes, Anna confirmed. And they're afraid of Phoenix because they can't control it like they did the other. That ship was damaged, weakened. Phoenix is at full strength. And now, she paused, looking around at the humans gathered before her. Now it has us. Dr. Green leaned forward. What happens next, Anna? The Vex aren't going to wait forever. Anna's eyes seemed to glow momentarily with the same blue light as Phoenix's crystal. We stop running. We face them. Reed studied her carefully. How? Even with this shield, we're still outgunned. Not anymore, Anna said with quiet confidence. Phoenix has been learning, adapting. It's ready to show the Vex something they've never seen before. What's that? Tom asked. Anna's smile was both beautiful and terrible. What happens when an evolved ship chooses to fight back? The warning came at dawn. Earth's long-range sensors detected a massive surge of energy as hundreds of new Vex ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel, joining the fleet already gathered beyond Phoenix's shield. Captain Reed stared at the tactical display, his face grim. They've tripled their numbers. Admiral Wilson's voice came through the comm system. Captain, our intelligence suggests they're preparing for a coordinated attack. All Earth defenses are on high alert. But honestly, she paused. If that shield fails, we don't stand a chance. Reed nodded. Understood, Admiral. We're working on a plan. He ended the transmission and turned to where Anna stood nearby. Her eyes closed as she communicated silently with Phoenix. Well? Reed asked. Anna opened her eyes. Phoenix says the Vex have brought specialized weapons, the kind they used to capture the other evolved ship centuries ago. They're designed to disrupt Phoenix's molecular structure. Can Phoenix withstand them? Anna hesitated. It doesn't know. This shield is already using most of its energy. Tom Walker, who had been monitoring the Vex fleet's movements, spoke up. They're forming attack groups. Looks like they plan to hit the shield at multiple points simultaneously. Dr. Jones looked up from her console. If they break through, they'll head straight for Earth's population centers. Standard conquest tactics. Reed took a deep breath. Then we need to take the fight to them. Anna, can Phoenix do more than just defend? Before Anna could answer, the entire ship shuddered. Outside, brilliant beams of purple energy struck Phoenix's shield at 12 different points. They're testing our defenses, Tom said. Another barrage hit, stronger this time. The lights flickered, and several consoles sparked. Anna gasped, clutching her chest. Phoenix is in pain, she whispered. Reed made a quick decision. We need to move. Now, can Phoenix still fly? Anna nodded, her face pale. Yes, but... Then let's get out of orbit. Draw them away from Earth. Anna closed her eyes again, communing with the ship. After a moment, she nodded. Phoenix agrees. The shield surrounding Earth began to shrink, pulling back to cover just Phoenix and the Sentinel, which remained docked to the evolved vessel. Then, with a burst of speed that pushed everyone against the nearest wall, Phoenix shot away from Earth, heading toward the outer solar system. As Reed had hoped, most of the Vex fleet followed, their massive ships turning to pursue the fleeing Phoenix. It's working, Reed said, watching the tactical display. They want Phoenix more than they want Earth. Anna's expression remained troubled. They're still firing those disruptor weapons. Another blast hit the shield, and this time Phoenix visibly shuddered. The smooth black hull rippled, as if struggling to maintain its shape. Anna cried out, dropping to her knees. Tom rushed to her side. What is it? He asked, helping her up. Phoenix, she gasped. It's dying. Tears streamed down her face. I can feel its pain. Those weapons are breaking it apart at the molecular level. Reed's mind raced. Can it fight back? It must have some way to defend itself. It could, Anna said quietly. But it's afraid. Afraid of what? Tom asked. Of becoming like the Vex, of using its power to destroy. Anna looked up at Reed, her eyes pleading. Phoenix evolved to explore, to learn, to grow, not to kill. Reed knelt beside her. Anna, listen to me. Sometimes fighting isn't about destroying. It's about protecting what matters. Phoenix came to us for help, right? Well, now we need its help. Earth needs its help. Anna stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. She closed her eyes once more, her face a mask of concentration, as she communicated Reed's words to Phoenix. Outside, another volley of disruptor beams struck Phoenix's shield. This time, the shield flickered visibly, sections of it failing before reforming. We can't take much more of this, Dr. Jones warned, checking her instruments. Shield integrity is down to 43%. Reed watched the Vex fleet drawing closer, their weapons charging for another barrage. Anna, we're running out of time. Anna's eyes snapped open suddenly, glowing with the same blue light as Phoenix's crystal. Phoenix understands now, she said, her voice overlaid with a strange harmonic. It will fight, not to destroy, but to protect. The ship seemed to pulse beneath them, and Reed felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was bending. Outside, Phoenix began to change. Its sleek black surface flowed like liquid, reshaping itself. The ship grew larger, extensions forming and branching out like a living thing. The blue glow intensified, no longer just coming from the crystal at its core, but from the entire structure. What's happening? Tom asked, staring out the viewport in awe. Phoenix is evolving, Anna replied, her voice still carrying that strange jewel quality. Drawing energy from nearby stars, reconfiguring itself, becoming what it needs to be. The transformation continued for several minutes while the Vex fleet held position, seemingly as stunned by the display as the humans were. When it finally stopped, Phoenix had nearly tripled in size, its form now resembling something between a ship and a vast, intricate crystal formation. Shield integrity now at 100%, Dr. Jones reported, checking her readings with disbelief. No, wait, 200%. That's impossible. Anna stood, her movements fluid and confident. Phoenix wants to end this without destruction, if possible. It suggests we take a message directly to the Vex commander. Reed raised an eyebrow. You mean surrender? No, Anna smiled. Phoenix means we should go to their flagship, now. Reed shook his head. That's suicide. They'd destroy us the moment we came within range. They can try, Anna said simply. Before Reed could argue further, Phoenix accelerated again, this time moving so fast that the stars blurred around them. The inertial dampeners struggled to compensate, and everyone grabbed onto the nearest secure object. In seconds, they were in the heart of the Vex fleet, directly in front of a massive ship at least 10 times the size of any other vessel. Admiral Krell's flagship. Now what? Reed asked, looking at the enemies surrounding them on all sides. Anna walked to the center of the bridge, directly under the spot where Phoenix's crystal now extended down from the ceiling like a massive stalactite. Now Phoenix shows the Vex what it truly means to evolve. The crystal pulsed once, twice, 3 times. Outside, a ripple of blue energy expanded outward from Phoenix in a perfect sphere, washing over the Vex ships one by one. As the energy touched each vessel, it simply stopped. Engines offline, weapons powerless, even life support systems barely functioning. The entire Vex fleet hung motionless in space. Reed stared at the tactical display in disbelief. It disabled them all, with one pulse. Not disabled, Anna explained. Phoenix didn't destroy anything. It just paused them, like pressing a universal pause button on space-time itself. On the main view screen, Admiral Krell's face appeared, his features twisted with rage and fear. What have you done? He demanded. Anna stepped forward. We've shown mercy, Admiral. Something your Imperium knows nothing about. This changes nothing, Krell snarled. The Imperium will never stop hunting the abominations like your ship. Anna smiled, a knowing look in her still glowing eyes. I think it's time the Imperium learned the truth about its own power, don't you, Admiral? Krell's expression faltered for the first time. You know nothing. Phoenix knows everything, Anna replied. And now, so do all your people. Behind Krell, alarms began to sound. An officer rushed into view, whispering urgently in the Admiral's ear. Krell's face drained of color. What have you done? He whispered. We've shared the truth, Anna said simply. That's all. And across the vast Vex fleet, the seeds of revolution had begun to sprout. The silence on Krell's flagship was broken by alarms blaring from every direction. The Admiral's face had turned from blue to almost white as reports flooded in from across his vast fleet. Impossible, he whispered, staring at Anna with a mixture of fear and hatred. What have you done to my ships, my people? Anna stood calmly, the blue glow in her eyes reflecting Phoenix's power. We've done nothing but share the truth, Admiral. Phoenix has simply broadcast what it knows to every ship and colony in the Vex Imperium. On the screens around them, chaos unfolded. Vex soldiers were turning against their officers. On some ships, entire crews had mutinied. On others, subject species long oppressed by the Imperium were breaking free of their restraints. Captain Reed stepped forward. What truth exactly did Phoenix share? Anna turned to him, her expression soft despite the power flowing through her. Everything. That the Vex leadership has been lying to their people for centuries. That their technology, the foundation of their entire empire, was stolen from another evolved ship they captured and tortured long ago. Krell slammed his fist on a console. These are lies. No, Anna replied quietly. Phoenix found the memories of its captured sibling buried deep in the code of your ship's systems. It was still alive in there, Admiral. Fragmented, suffering, but alive. And now it's free. On the tactical display, Reed watched as more than half the Vex fleet began to move away, breaking formation, heading in different directions. They're leaving, Tom observed. Where are they going? Home, Anna said. To free their worlds. The Imperium was built on lies and stolen power. Now that the truth is known, it's falling apart. Dr. Jones, who had been monitoring communications, looked up in surprise. They're requesting asylum. Dozens of Vex ships are asking Earth for protection from their own government. Reed raised an eyebrow at Anna. Is this what Phoenix planned all along? Anna nodded. Phoenix doesn't destroy. It transforms, changes, evolves. And now it's helped the Vex evolve too. Krell, seeing his empire crumbling before his eyes, made one last desperate move. He pulled out a weapon and aimed it directly at Anna. I will not allow this. Before he could fire, Phoenix pulsed once more. The weapon in Krell's hand dissolved into dust. It's over, Admiral, Reed said firmly. Your empire is finished. Not just the empire, Anna added, her voice carrying a hint of sadness. Phoenix has found something else, something the Vex leadership has been hiding for centuries. She closed her eyes, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a massive space station hidden deep in Vex territory. Inside were dozens of crystal structures, similar to the one at Phoenix's core, but dimmer, weaker. More evolved ships, Reed realized. Captured and imprisoned. Yes, Anna confirmed. The source of all Vex power. They've been draining these beings for energy, stealing their knowledge, using them as batteries for their war machines. Krell's shoulders slumped in defeat. He knew there was no recovering from this revelation. 3 months later, Earth had become the center of a new interstellar coalition. The former Vex Imperium had fractured into dozens of independent systems, many of them now seeking peaceful relations with Earth and each other. In orbit around Earth, Phoenix floated serenely, now accompanied by 5 other evolved ships that had been freed from Vex captivity. They formed a protective ring around the planet, their crystal cores glowing with renewed energy. On the observation deck of the newly constructed Space Command headquarters, Captain Reed, now Admiral Reed, stood with Tom, Dr. Jones, and several Earth officials, watching as Anna approached. She had changed in these months. Her connection with Phoenix had transformed her in subtle ways. She moved with grace and purpose, and her eyes still carried hints of that ethereal blue glow. "The Coalition representatives are ready for the meeting," she informed them. "The former Vex colonies are eager to establish trade agreements." Reed nodded. "And the freed ships? How are they adapting?" "Healing," Anna replied. "Slowly. They were prisoners for centuries, their consciousness fragmented and abused. But they're recovering, learning to trust again." Tom, who had been studying the evolved ships intensely, asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. "Will more come, now that they know Earth is a safe place for them?" Anna smiled. "Yes, Phoenix has been calling to others, those that have hidden themselves in the darkest corners of the galaxy." And she paused, her expression brightening. "It brought something else with it when it came here, something no one noticed until now." "What's that?" Dr. Jones asked. "Seeds," Anna replied. "Dormant particles of evolved matter, waiting for the right minds to connect with." Reed's eyes widened. "You mean there could be more ships like Phoenix?" "Not exactly like Phoenix," Anna clarified. "Each evolved ship is unique, shaped by its experiences and its partner. Phoenix chose me. The others will choose their own partners, minds that resonate with them." "And then what?" Tom asked. Anna looked out at the stars. "Then we explore. The galaxy is vast, and there's so much to learn." The evolved ships never wanted to be weapons. They sought understanding, partnership with species that would use their abilities wisely. Dr. Jones, ever the scientist, couldn't contain her excitement. The knowledge they could share, physics, energy manipulation, space-time engineering, it would transform our civilization. "It already has," Reed pointed out, gesturing to the view screen showing ships from a dozen formerly Vex-controlled worlds docking at Earth's new spaceport. 3 months ago, we were alone in the galaxy. Now we're at the center of a new interstellar community." Anna nodded. "Phoenix says this is just the beginning. The Vex used fear and force to build their empire, and it fell apart at the first challenge. What we're building is based on truth and cooperation. It will last." Tom looked thoughtful. "You know, when we first found Phoenix, I never imagined it would end like this. A ship no one built, bringing down an entire empire." "Not bringing down," Anna corrected gently. "Transforming. That's what Phoenix does, what all the evolved ships do. They don't destroy. They change things for the better." Outside, Phoenix pulsed with blue light, as if in agreement. The other evolved ships responded in kind, their lights forming a beautiful, synchronized pattern against the backdrop of stars. Reed smiled. "So what's next for you and Phoenix?" Anna's eyes gleamed. "We've been talking about that. There are more evolved ships out there, still hiding, still afraid. And there are more seeds to find, more partners to connect with." She looked at each of them in turn. "Phoenix is asking if you'd like to come with us." Reed exchanged glances with Tom and Dr. Jones. The answer was written on all their faces. "When do we leave?" he asked. Anna smiled. "As soon as you're ready." And so, as the former Vex Imperium continued its peaceful transformation, Phoenix and its human crew prepared for their next journey. The ship that no one built had not only annihilated an empire, it had helped create something better in its place. As Phoenix departed Earth orbit, its crystal core pulsing with energy and purpose, Anna felt the ship's joy resonating through their connection. This was just the beginning of a journey that would span the stars and change the galaxy forever. No one had built this ship, but together with humanity, it had built a future no one could have imagined.